how thrilling it has been for me to be here and to experience firsthand what I have known about by the hearing of the ear, and that's the vitality of your ministry here at Asbury United Methodist Church. What a joy to be here, and what a joyful congregation you are to share worship with. This morning I've chosen as the text a reading from Genesis. In a way it's a bit unfair because we're jumping into a story that takes up many chapters. It's the story of Jacob and Esau, and we come in the reading that's selected for today to Jacob making his way back home. I love these stories in the Hebrew Scriptures. I love them, one, because they're so human. The people characterized here are people who do very human things. They cheated their brother out of their estate. They sometimes lie. They sometimes do all manner of things. And yet, the wonderful thing is that just as they are, God was working in their lives, and they become for us wonderful models of what it means to walk with God with all of our strengths and our weaknesses, with all of our good points and our minuses. It's all part of the package. But to realize that in the mix of life, God is always at work with us. And to be aware of that is to come to that level of spiritual living that fulfills our life with meaning, purpose, and direction. So this is the story of Jacob's on his way back to meet his brother Esau. He stops at a place called Bethel where he has a dream. And this is where we pick up the story. Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And the Lord stood beside Jacob and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring. And your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. Sometimes I believe that we are prone to forget that in every place our footsteps, God is present. It doesn't matter if life is going well or if we're in the most severe of situations, God is with us. I like the way that one of the creeds of the church expresses it. In life and death, and life beyond death, God is with us. We are not alone. Over the years, so many times I've heard people say, where is God? I've asked that question. You've asked that question, I'm sure. Especially in moments of trial, tribulation, profound loss, when the circumstances of life would trample over us, we wonder, where's God? Or maybe it's not even anything that dramatic. Maybe it's just the routine, day in, day out, hour by hour, day by day, month by month, year by year. Life can be very routine, and we wonder, where is God? At times, some of us have given ourselves to those, trying to run to those experiences that we feel will kind of stir us up. Sometimes we come to church, we want to be stirred up, we want to have that feeling. It's hard to put it into words, isn't it? It's no surprise to me that When Bill Gaither talks about a divine moment in his life, he expresses it as he touched me. That's not a very theologically profound statement, but it captures it, doesn't it, for us? It speaks out of our experience. We can't always put into words our encounters with God, but we know he touched me. Or I think of the founder of United Methodism, John Wesley, who said on one occasion, "My heart was strangely warm." What does that mean? What does that mean? Does it matter what it means? What matters is that for him, for you, and for me, such experiences awaken us to God's presence with us. Helps us to see, to understand, to realize that in this endeavor of life, we're not alone. Rabbi Abraham Heschel, in a wonderful book entitled Sabbath, writes, "The higher goal of spiritual living is not to mass a wealth of knowledge, but to face sacred moments." To face sacred moments. One of the common experiences of life is waking up to something we did not realize before. I think it happens all the time. For years we may act in a certain way, and one day we wake up to the fact that our actions have been objectionable to others, and we change our ways. Or we may have labored blindly to acquire status or some cherished possession in life, and then suddenly we realize that there are more important things than that which we have been striving to attain and to gain. We change in those moments, those divine moments, those sacred moments that God blesses our lives with and are there for us to realize. We say, "It dawned on me," or "I saw the light." My mom was a great fan of country western, and she loved to hear Hank Williams sing, "I saw the light, I saw the light." I don't know if you know, this isn't in my sermon, I'll tell you anyway. I don't know if you know the story, but it's told that when Hank Williams, the country western singer, was dying, that Minnie Pearl was holding him in her arms. And she said Minnie Pearl was a great Methodist person and Christian woman. I don't know if you know that. But she said to Hank Williams, she said, "Look to the light, Hank. Look to the light." He said, "Minnie, I didn't see it." Though he sang it so beautifully in his own experience, he didn't see it. Divine moments when we wake up at last, when we come to an understanding of what life is all about. This is what happened to Jacob that night there at Bethel. And he has a memorable dream. We don't pay attention to our dreams. Sometimes people look at that kind of thing as kind of out there, but sometimes God speaks to us through our dreams. For Jacob, it was a ladder reaching between earth and heaven. And angels going up and down. And then he wakes up from his sleep. He wakes up from that dream with the powerful realization that God is there. "Surely," he said, "the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." Oh, we walk through life all too often not knowing that God is with us. God is with us. Wherever we are, whatever our circumstances, wherever our place, God is with us. We don't want to sleep through that. We don't want to be ignorant of what the Lord is doing for us. We don't want to be unaware of God's presence, of God's leadings. We don't want to miss our sacred moments. We want to face them. We want to embrace them and realize in our own experience the God we know of, the God we talk about, the God we teach, the God we know in Jesus Christ. To know that God personally and intimately, He touched me. Anyone who has had the good fortune to be influenced by an inspiring or gifted teacher knows the difference between a sense of awareness and a a sense of the routine, a sense of boredom. A teacher awakens within us, a good teacher, excitement in life to the subject they're teaching, awakens our minds to the wonder, awakens us to a sense of what's truly important. We may walk through the woods without a second thought of what we're seeing and experiencing, but a naturalist will open our eyes and our ears and our minds to all that's going on around us, and it suddenly becomes alive and more beautiful. We might just routinely read the words of a poem or sing a hymn or a song. Yet there are those moments when the same poem, the same song will awaken within us the movement of the Spirit. What does it mean to embrace our sacred moments? I believe that we face our sacred moments by embracing them for what they are. They are moments of divine human encounter. And our choice is to live into them, to internalize them, to accept them for what they are, and allow them to nurture us in body and mind and in spirit, and to enliven our journey of faith. I'm grateful for the sacred moments that God has blessed me to experience in my life. Oh, not the manufactured or the manipulated kind. We've all perhaps had experience with that, where someone has worked up our emotions, our feelings, and that sort of thing. That has its place, perhaps, but I'm talking about something different. I'm thinking about those serendipitous, unexpected, unanticipated, unplanned for moments that cause us to sing, "Oh, how glorious, full of wonder is thy name in all the earth." About 12 years ago, it was my good fortune to hike for 2 weeks in Yoho National Park. To be there in that beautiful region of the world. Every moment of those 2 weeks was alive with inspiring and breathtaking scenes of nature's beauty, God's creation. With all that I was seeing and feeling, I was on stimulation overload, to say the least. One day we had hiked the morning through some pretty rough terrain, and about noontime we came around a bend in the trail, and there before us was a lake, Lake MacArthur. I was unprepared for what happened in that moment. I saw it with the mountains stretching into the heavens, with the ice flowing on the lake, plain and yet alive in a way that I have few words to express. My whole being was suddenly overwhelmed as I stood there gazing at the scene before us. Friends who were hiking with us walked past, making their way to the edge of the water, but I couldn't even move. Literally, my body just was almost in a trance. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to be near anyone. And thank God friends were sensitive and gave me the space and the aloneness that I needed. And for about an hour, I was uniquely conscious of the sacred, of the holy, the wonder of it all. Oh, the wonder of it all, one of our hymns says. For me, it was a divine moment. And in the silence of that day, I recalled my college president, Dr. Dennis Kinlaw, saying to the student body during a time of spiritual renewal on the campus. Dr. Kinlaw said, "Give me one divine moment when God acts, and I say that moment is far superior to all the human efforts of man through the centuries." There in Yoho, I faced a sacred moment, and by God's grace was able to embrace it and have been continuously mindful of its transforming impact on my life. On another occasion, I was present one evening at a college midweek prayer service. Please understand that we had to go to all these things. I went to a pretty strict Bible college when I began my training for ministry, and they didn't trust us. So church was required, Sunday school was required, Sunday night service was required, midweek prayer meeting was required. It just seemed to me, as I look back, that everything was required. So we were not, some of us, myself included, were not always there in the best of spirit or attitude. After all, there were more important things to do, like seeing the girl who you had just met at dinner that evening, or something of that nature. But anyway, this mandated attendance at this midweek prayer meeting, often attended out of obligation and a desire not to have my academic grades lowered, because if you missed chapel 3 times, all your grades were lowered 1 letter. That's how tough they were. Well, with that attitude, I was present one night when a resident evangelist on the campus began to lead us in the singing of Horatio Spafford's great hymn, "It Is Well With My Soul." And I'm not sure just when the transition occurred, but we were singing, and suddenly it appeared to me that the whole place was alive with light and love, and a sense of God's presence that you could almost cut with a knife. We were overwhelmed, and as we sang, we were graced with a sacred moment. John Kleinpeter was wise enough to lead us through that moment, and many of us got good things straightened out in our lives as we embraced the moment that God had given us. As a community of faith, we faced a sacred moment, and the love, grace, and peace of God were realized by many that evening in life-enriching, life-enhancing ways. Such sacred moments are not all that frequent. They're never planned, I think. They're never routine. I'm aware that there's a lot of explanations that can be given for such experiences in our lives, but I take them for what they are and embrace them and encourage you to do the same. These moments gently remind us of God's presence with us in all of life and in our individual lives in particular. These moments can often nudge us closer to God and nudge us to do the right thing with a sister or brother. Such moments have motivated me over the years to be a Christian in my heart and in my relationships with others, and prompted me to better do the good that God calls us to do. I've read in Celtic literature that there is only 3 feet between God and humanity. In sacred moments, the distance is non-existent. And so, friends, embrace the moments that God gives you. Live into them and experience that love that desires not to let us go, but to keep us in that warm embrace that nurtures us, strengthens us, and encourages us. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.